Now listen to how radical this language is. When Paul is writing this in 62, 63, 64 AD, he's within 2 years of the great revolt against Rome. 3 major revolts. First Jewish revolt, the diaspora revolt, and then the third one, the Bar Kokhba revolt. Jews and Romans against one another, Jews and Gentiles in an ever-increasing, spiraling hatred. And yet in the middle of all that, Paul steps in and he says, you know what? I got the solution to all this. You know the division problem? You know the animosity problem? You know the hatred problem? You know the separation problem? There's an answer to that. I just want to get real practical here. There's a whole lot of things that divide us today. There's East versus West. There's Christian versus Muslim. There's educated and uneducated. Husbands and wives, COVID hasn't helped, are at one another's throat. Racial tension in our own country. Let me suggest this way forward, because I think it's the only way forward. The way that we resolve our differences, the way that our differences are resolved, is not going to be through endless, costly marital counseling. That helps. That's a part of the equation. But it's not the ultimate solution. The solution to this culture clash between East and West, between Christianized Europe and America and Islamic countries, that's not going to be satisfied, fixed by sitting down at the negotiating table. Problems within our country, issues, racial issues, all across the board, that will not be resolved in Washington, D.C. It's not going to be resolved by legislation. It's not going to be resolved by levying fines or penalties on one group or the other for failure to be sensitive enough to the needs and concerns of some other group that sees itself as being aggrieved. It's not going to be satisfied by jail time. It won't be satisfied by protests or the lack of protests. The solution to the human dilemma: that person's different than me. That person believes something other than I do. That person's on the left. This person's on the right. This person has an R beside his name. That person has a D beside his name. That is not the way forward. This will never, the human dilemma and situation, problem is never going to be just wished away. It's not going to be fought in wars away. It's never going to go away, guys, unless the real vaccination enters the scene, comes into the mix, gets injected into these fallen human bodies and minds of ours. The only thing powerful enough, and Paul is saying this at a point when the boiling point was just about to be reached, and that first revolt, and then the second and third revolts following, and it never solved a thing. I'm telling you that this is the solution. It's the solution to whatever you've got going on the inside of you that's separating you and your children, or you and your boss, or you and your spouse, or you and your neighbor, or you and some other person of another race, or another socioeconomic category. Jesus' death on the cross, Jesus voluntarily spilling His blood in a sacrifice that then opened the way for all of us to have access to the presence of God. In fact, have the presence of God living on the inside of us. That is the ultimate solution. Not legislation, not anger, not resentment toward other people who are different than we are. Jesus, His death and shed blood on the cross is the solution to not just that problem that we have on the inside, but the guilt and every other thing that besets the human condition, the human race. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our videos. If you're benefiting from the content that you're receiving from them, please make sure that you're following us on Facebook and that you subscribe to the YouTube channel so you never miss a thing. While you're at it, share our content with your friends and family. Encourage them to follow us as well. Thanks for helping us to reach as many as we can with a powerful message of God's Word in its original context.